You know him as America's science teacher. You may have seen him on The Ellen Show. You might have seen his incredible YouTube science videos. He's currently got 4.3 billion, I said billion views on social media and counting. He is an author, an educational leader, a thought. He's at the forefront of science education and thought leadership. And I'm lucky enough to call him my friend. Today,
Aw.
we have him here to talk about his brand new book, which for me has been my top thing I've been looking forward to all year, The Engagement Effect. Welcome to the show, Steve Spangler.
Wow, I don't even know how there's no way I could have had an introduction like that. Diane, would you just be on the road with me? I feel like I'm on fire there
You
for a second.
are on fire. What on
I
earth
like,
are you doing?
you know me. It's wherever I go, there's a small problem with the fire department. So, first of all, can I say thank you so much? You're so kind to do this. I've watched your podcast just take off. So it's really, really fun. If you're watching this right now and you just popped into it because maybe I sent you a link and said, take a look at Dr. Diane's podcast, you gotta follow and subscribe. And she's got some great things. Go back and binge all the stuff ahead of this because there's just so much good content. So first of all, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for letting us take a few minutes to talk about the engagement effect.
Thank you so much for joining me. Knowing you and knowing how engagement has been central to your message for so many years, this book is on my must-read list, and I'm so excited that people are going to get to read it. Can you talk about why engagement is so important? What is the engagement effect?
Yep. So first of all, let's just say that this is, I've done books before, so science experiment books, but as my wife would say, this is your first real book that has words. It has subjects and verbs. There's punctuation, capital letters. So it's one of those. Now, don't worry, there are actually some pictures in the book. The very center of the book, there's a ton of pictures that we've never really shared before. Pictures of lovely Carly on stage. And so behind the scenes when Carly is doing all of her magic and making things happen. So there's some cool things that are that way, but how fun. And so I love that opening question. So what is the engagement effect? What does that really mean? Hopefully by the end of the podcast, you go, oh, so that is. Because when I just tell you at the very beginning here, when people connect with you through emotionally and intellectually, through an experience that you have cultivated, look at all these words. So when people connect emotionally, intellectually through an experience you've created, you've designed, you've cultivated, and then they take that action and do something with it, that's what's so important. That's the Spangler effect. What I wanted to do, oh, shoot, that's the engagement effect. So, but it's the engagement effect. And I think about it with, if you see in my eyes, a little trepidation because we were not going to call the book The Engagement Effect. What do you think I was going to call the book, Diane? You know me well enough and we've
Best
spent enough
day
time
ever.
together. Yeah, I was going to call it Best Day Ever. And for those of your followers, those are the people who are watching that don't understand, well, what does that mean? I'm more than happy to give you the condensed version of that story if you want that a little bit later on. But that's a feeling. And we're going to call it that. We're going to call it Best Day Ever. But the nice people at Forefront Books and Simon and Schuster, so that's the pair that's there, said, you know what? I think that's an education thing, that maybe teachers get it. And I said, well, all of this is looking at engagement through the lens of a teacher, through the lens of a scientist. And they said, yeah. And it kind of came out organically as we were talking and with the editors back and forth. They go, well, isn't that the engagement effect? And you're like, what? The engagement effect? What is the engagement effect? And so it's interesting. And so now it's all things and talking about how we build those connections. So we can unpack that for you, Diane, along the way. But that's it really is a feeling. But I found out that it's more than a feeling. There's some empirical data with some pretty fun examples that are in the book as well.
Well, and that was going to be my question is sort of why is engagement a more important metric than, say, testing, for example?
It is a more important metric, but it's incredibly difficult to measure. right?
Yeah.
Because it is a feeling. And so to bring your listeners and your viewers kind of up to speed, I was in the classroom for 11 years. And during that time in the classroom, as the story goes, I traded 4 walls for 4 wheels. I was on a cart, an AV cart. There's some of your viewers that don't even understand the words I just said,
They're
AV
so
cart.
young. I know.
I know, they are. We used to take a 600-pound TV and put it on, well, before that, a film projector, but then we'd strap this thing down with truck tie-downs, and you hit a bump, you take out a kid, you know how the whole thing works. But I started my career on an AV cart. My principal said, great teachers are made by the teacher next door. And I just needed 27 of them. And little did I know that I would spend 11 years on a cart going from room to room, asking the most important question that I learned early on from a great principal, and that was, how can I help you? Those are the words that I was supposed to talk to the team. So I'd roll into the 2nd grade team the week before and say, all right, we're talking about force and motion next week. How can I help you? And we would lay that whole kind of process out. It was my 2nd year teaching that I realized that teachers, there's a day during the year that teachers hate, and it's Halloween. And it was the one day I thought I could sneak in my own stuff, because I'd ask, can I do my own thing if there's free time? There's no free time.
Right.
Halloween, there's free time. Every teacher wants you to do 15, 20 minutes in their room. And so as the story goes, I just put stuff on the cart and had a little show. Little did I know that design right there, it would change everything. I mean, we didn't have a kitchen like this. Like if you look at this kitchen here, this is our set for DIY Sci. It's so easy to present it in here because you got this. You're on an AV cart. You're on this cart that you're kind of pushing into their room, you know? So in short, a pumpkin is, so first of all, you kick open the door, and then you yell at the kids, get to the back of the room. And the reason you say that is because we didn't have money for safety glasses. So I figured if they're in the back of the room, that's a little bit easier. And so get to the back of the room. And then I've taken the pumpkin, carved the pumpkin, put the face back in the pumpkin, put a small explosive in the pumpkin, a little striker like this, that's all you need to light the acetylene gas that has been generated in there. When it goes, bam! And it just and the kids lose their mind. And so when they're screaming, you reach back and you get the hydrogen peroxide. We're going to do elephant's toothpaste. You know, everybody knows elephant's toothpaste. No, not 32 years ago. TikTok wasn't even around. These kids have no idea what's going to happen next. Put it in there, put the catalyst in, the foam comes out, which is absolutely beautiful. Science boy should have realized that foam hasn't completely decomposed yet. And so it changes the color of the carpet in the same way it changes the color of your hair. Came out in the administrative hearing that if I was going to pull those shenanigans, I should probably have a protective coating that's on the... I didn't even know what the word shenanigans mean. It was in my record, Diane. The word shenanigans is in my file. I like that.
Hilarious.
I was going to teach them about candy, the energy that's in candy. Classic experiment. You take a test tube and you put a little bit of an oxidizer. It's a powder in the test tube. Then you use an aim and flame like this, a lighter, and you heat it up, turns it into a liquid. Drop a gummy bear in. You could do a jelly bean, but who wants jelly? You want a gummy bear. Drop the gummy bear in. The gummy bear reacts with the oxidizer. You get a little flame, and a little wisp of smoke. And the kids are like, well, there's the energy, right? But I was thinking, you know, it is a big show and the kids are far away. So just trade a test tube for an Erlenmeyer flask. That's a little bit better, right? A little bit more oxidizer. This isn't going to work, but a blowtorch does. It's 1992. Nobody cares. And so you blowtorch this thing up like that. And I remember to this day, Diane, I remember reaching back and touching the gummy bear. But then I found 5 of its little friends right there. And I just thought, wonder what would happen. So I just scooped them up. Man, did we learn a lot that day. Because when you drop them all in like that, fire comes out of the Erlenmeyer flask like a jet engine. It glows like an atomic reaction going on. The way it was reported in the newspaper is that Steve Spangler lit a kid's desk on fire. Not true. A gummy bear that was on fire got excited, jumped out of the flask, and landed on a kid's desk. That's the power of the union. That's it. The union will give you the greatest things that you need to know. I didn't know what to do, so I just grabbed a book, wham, right on top. I put out the little gummy bear. Kids are looking at me like, what? And I just said, whatever you do, don't tell your moms and dads about this, which is code for a kid. Do tell mom and dad as fast as you can. But my favorite thing to close out the whole thing was my grandfather owned an antique store. He was a teacher. But his side hustle is he had an antique store. He said, teachers make so much money, sometimes we get a second job. And so that's why Grandma and Grandpa owned this cool store. Box, about this big. There's wires that came out of the box and a crank. Little did we know that it created electricity. It generated electricity. So he'd have us all hold hands and we'd hang on to the two wires at the end, and he'd get down and he'd go, hang on. And then he'd just crank this thing and he'd go, don't let go or you're a sissy. And we wanted to be brave. You got to be brave. You're not going to let go of that thing. And man, it hurt. But it brought such great joy to Grandpa that we just kind of took it, and he loved it. And so we'd go, hey, Grandpa, get the sissy machine. He'd go, I'll get it. Hold on. And he'd go and he'd bring it out. And, he passed away when I was 16. And when my grandmother was divvying up stuff along the way, she said, nobody likes the sissy machine as much as you, and it's yours. And so at the age 16, I got this thing. What do you do with it? You put it on the AV cart, and that's how you close the show that day. You go, kids, get in a big circle because the ghosts are coming. You are going to feel the spirit of Halloween pass through your body. And crank it. Don't let go, you're a sissy. And the kids scream, and it's the greatest way to close the show. I'm telling you all of this because I learned in that little piece there how to craft an experience by accident. I had put together a show with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Isn't that fun? And it kept the kids' attention. Kick open the door, go to the next room. The next day I got to go to the principal's office. Thanks for asking. And there was a little, I thought maybe I'd done a pretty good job. So maybe there would be like a certificate. Maybe I'd get a classroom, marching band. I don't know what was going to happen. But I thought maybe a parade. That was just the therapist said that's my narcissism. And so it was a father who was asking some questions. So a dad had asked Dr. Tarleton, my principal, some questions about his daughter and son coming home and asking questions. And she says, just ask Steve. That's your principal throwing you under the bus. And he said, imagine a dad saying this to your teacher, am I correct to understand that you detonated an explosion in a classroom in front of a group of children? He said it just like that. Who are you? I'm Gabby's dad. Oh, I love Gabby, third grade Gabby. I love that. I go, detonate is such a strong word, Mr. McPherson. And I know I'm fired, so I'm not going to even look at Dr. Tarleton over here. He said, we heard about a pumpkin that barfed and changed the color of the carpet. That's about when I felt the sweat starting to build up just right here. He goes, we heard about the fire. We heard the gummy bear was on fire. I go, I told those kids not to say anything about the fire. He said, there are many other things he asked, but he said, did you put the kids in a circle and have them hold hands and then put electricity through their body and yelled at them, don't let go or you're a sissy?
It's so bad when you say it that way.
I know. You know the nice thing about when you pass out and you're sitting down, you just go night-night, and then when you wake up, HR is standing there and they have you put your stuff in a box. It didn't happen. Dr. Tarleton shoots us across the bow. She goes, Chuck, tell the kid why you're here. I'm like, Chuck, what? He says, I know everything you said. I know everything you did. Last night was the first night we didn't have to ask our children, what did you do in school today? Last night was Halloween. Those kids want out to trick-or-treat as fast as they can. Not last night. He said, Gabby, little Gabby, third grade. Little Gabby started her monologue before we even set the table. Mac and cheese that night and hot dogs. Kids love that. She just kept going, kept going. We ate the dinner and she just kept performing. And her brother kept going, yep, that's true. Yep, that's true. The very end, she goes, so Mom and Dad, he says, and we knew she was done when she goes, so Mom and Dad, if you want to know what we did in school today, that is what we did. Bam. Don't you love the bam part? Bam,
I love
like
the
that.
bam.
And he says, honey, there was so many things. What did you think about that? Without hesitation, he said, she looked into my eye and said, today, Daddy, was the best day ever. See, I'd never heard that as a brand new teacher, but you internalize that a little too heavily and you go, best day, best day. And then I hit the principal, best day ever, Dr. Charles. Did you hear that? Best day ever. And she's so calm and cool. She's just like, oh, settle down, Sparky. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Listen more than you talk. He said, Gabby, did you tell Mr. Spangler best day ever? She goes, I didn't have to. I just gave him a hug. He knows. Is that funny? Is that you realize that when you connect and you engage through a shared experience, a kid rewards you with 3 amazing words called best day ever. See, I thought that that's the name of the book because Mr. McPherson looked into my eyes and said, you have my daughter's undivided attention. She would do anything for you in this moment in time. Do something with it. And I think that's how the engagement effect was born, is that I thought, that's a challenge. See, we work so hard to do our activities, to come up with all the cool things, all the demonstrations, all the videos, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, our job is to help a child find his or her spark. And once they find their spark, we got to put them in front of somebody who will help champion the cause. And not everybody loves science. I explain it like a plate spinner. You get all these plates going. All of a sudden, they're all, you can't spin them all at the same time. Something's going to wobble. And guess what? Some kids don't resonate with the experience you've helped to create, right? So part of that is realizing that it's their experience. And as Dr. Charlton walked me out that day, she goes, what did we learn? And I said, I'm not going to do the pumpkin thing. I'm so sorry. And she goes, we didn't learn that. Think like a teacher. What did we learn? And I go, yeah, I'm going to put the protective coat. And she goes, no. And I was so frustrated. I go, I don't know. And she said, what we learned today was if it gets to the dinner table, you win. If what you did to that day was more than an activity, activities are transactional. Do an activity, kids pay attention. If you don't pay attention, you don't get the activity. It's like a reward kind of thing. She said, if what you did that day was transformational, that means that you created an experience. And that's truly a teacher's superpower. It changes the way a child can see, feel, think, and react. So, Diane, that's kind of where the whole thing kind of came about. And I thought that that was the end, but I promise this is the end. I saw Gabby 2 weeks later. 2 weeks in the middle of November, long past the Halloween thing. And I was going to teach the kids how to whip the tablecloth off, because wouldn't that be great for Thanksgiving? Here, kids. And just after mom and dad say grace, you just go whoosh and you whip the tablecloth off. There are many things I did that were very, very bad early on. And I saw little Gabby. I kick open the door and I saw little Gabby, and her eyes look at me and I look at her. I look at Mrs. Ridgely and I just said, can I just talk to her for just a second? And I went over to her quietly and I said, Gabby, I saw your dad a couple weeks ago. And she goes, I know. And I said, you told him about the fire. And she goes, I know. And I said, you said the nicest words in the world. You said, best day ever. What was the best day ever part? See, what I was trying to do is to get her to tell me what was good and what she didn't like. And I'll just do more of those things and less of those things. That's how I'm going to be a better teacher. And she said, the gummy bears. I go, can we just forget about the gummy bears? She goes, but, the marshmallows and the toothpicks. And I went, honey, we didn't do anything with marshmallows and toothpicks. And she goes, oh, I know. But when you left Miss Ridgely, she had marshmallows and toothpicks. And in the afternoon, we get to push them together and we get to build things on our desk. I said, out of everything you saw that day, all the things you saw, marshmallows and toothpicks are best day ever? And she goes, uh-huh. And I realized at that moment in time, it wasn't about me, right? I thought I had to do it. I thought I was the teacher, has to bring in the cart, bring in all the materials, kids class, whatever it is. It was me, and I realized at that moment in time that great educators are we, right? We do this together. We cultivate these experiences. I realized the most important thing, Diane, is the title of that book, Cultivating Experiences, not creating, because that's what we do. We cultivate. And the hardest lesson in the entire book is, it doesn't matter if you're a teacher, you're a manager, you're a parent. Once you've cultivated something and you feel like there's a connection, you have to stand back. And when you stand back and you allow them to connect, they make it their own. That was her experience, not my experience. So that's why we say the engagement effect is a feeling. It is. But it's far more than a feeling, because that little kid took it to the next level. And that's what we have to do, is to be cognizant of the fact that we allow them to take it to the next level and to do their own thing with it.
So it sounds like we use the engagement effect as a way of basically setting invitations, creating invitations for children to engage and then to make it their own. Am I
exactly
correct?
You are. And every kid won't engage. When you cultivate an experience. Not every kid likes what you're doing, and you have to be okay with that. Let's take it from a business standpoint. Not every customer is going to be a raving fan of what you do, what you have. You have people who love your podcast. They may not watch every episode, and you may not be like, well, why did they disengage? No, they're connecting at that point where they need a connection. You know, a great speaker by the name of Anton Gunn said that everybody needs three things. They need, number one, to know that you care. So, do you care? Can you help me? And can I trust you? And if you get those three things, they're pivotal when it comes to engagement, because that's what they're asking kind of quietly in their mind. Do you care about me? Can you help me in some way? What does that mean? What does it look like when maybe when I'm interested in something, that they help find more of those great opportunities and those experiences. If I had been a great teacher back then, I would have seen that Gabby had connected and meant, Gabby, do you know that there's a career waiting for you? We haven't even invented it yet. We call it science now, but down the road we're going to call it STEM, STEAM, stream, school. I don't know what we're going to call it along the way, but you have to realize that there is something there, and if you like that, you like what you just saw, there are more things. You got to take every science class you can ever imagine. You got to learn to be a great writer. You got to be a good communicator. You got to collaborate with people. You have to love to wonder and discover and explore. So that's what we're doing, Diane. In short, we're trying to look at engagement through all the stories that are in the book and all the examples in the book. And there's some pretty empirical stuff that's in there as well, some kind of heady engagement stuff as well, because I realized it wasn't just teachers. People who are smarter than I am said, but this isn't just engagement in the classroom. This is engagement with products. This is engagement when you take a look at customers that are just so excited about something that they lean in. Just like a child leans in, they lean in. And you have to be willing, if you're in a business anyway, to experiment. And if you're hosting a podcast, to experiment with format, to experiment with style, to watch what people are doing, watch how they're engaging your content, and then when they connect, and you can tell when they connect, and they're posting comments, they're engaging as a customer, a child is super excited, then you respond to that and change what you're doing accordingly. When you do that, you start to master this thing called the engagement effect.
How do we help people take it to that next level? You know, you've created an experience, you've got people excited, they want to do what you're doing. And then that's where a lot of times people freeze, whether it's teachers, whether it's folks in business, entertainers. You sort of hit that point where you're like, you don't know what to do next. How do you take the engagement effect to really create meaningful connections?
I think what you have to do is you have to get feedback from them. So when you connect, two things. Connection is a two-way street, and I got a little example that I'll show you. But engagement is a two-way street. You cannot just constantly push stuff out, because sometimes your customers don't like that. I think of the example, when I was a kid, Coca-Cola came out with a new product called New Coke, New Coke.
Yeah. I remember that
You know, people hated it. We didn't even have social media back then. They hated New Coke, right? To answer your question, I think one of the things we have to do is we have to listen. We have to wait for that feedback. And what we think we're pushing out isn't necessarily a connector. In your workshops, you do this so well, and you've taken this to the next level, but we'll show people what we've played with. Years ago, I invented this toy that's right here. It's called an energy stick. And so here's a little energy stick here that you can kind of see. It's a piece of plastic that's here like this. And in the piece of plastic, there's a battery sitting down here. And there's LED wires, and there's a piece of metal here and a piece of metal here. And if you could take a piece of metal and you could connect this to this, you could build a connection or a bridge. I gotta have something here. Here, this will do it. So hold on a second. The spoon will do it. Here, watch this. So here's this metal spoon. So watch this. If I put this here and here, hear how it goes off? You can kind of see it along the way. Now, this is granite, so this is not a connector, so it does not go off. My sleeve's not a connector, right? But if I put my finger here, you heard it in here. Well, listen, it's working. Your body is a human conductor of electricity. So I love to do this with teachers. I love to hold on to it and go, okay, you ready to connect? Let's see if we're connected. I'll do it with kids. You ready to connect? 3, 2, 1. And the other person holds on to it. Nothing happens. You're like, what's going on? Nothing happens until they realize and they reach out their hand and they initiate the connection. And when you reach out and you touch and it goes off, you realize it's a loop. It's a feedback loop. I have to have that feedback along the way. And then once you connect, you're like, you push it to the next degree. You go, well, let's put in 2 people. Let's put in 10 people. Let's put in a Guinness World Record of 1,600 people along the way. Put your finger in water. Another person. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
Once you see them engage and connect, the hardest thing in the world is for a teacher to let go and to stand back and just watch it happen. You've cultivated the engagement. Now let it brew. It's like it's in a petri dish. You got to give it time to grow. Let that culture grow, and it will grow. And it grows into something you can't even imagine what it's going to be on the other end. And that's kind of what's so exciting about it. Something happens there. And there are no hard, fast rules. We were trying to find a formula. You know, the editors from Forefront kept on pushing me going, is there a formula? Business people need a formula. Is there a matrix? Is there a 4 square? No, I can't think of anything. And finally we came to the understanding there's nothing that's there because the engagement effect is truly an experiment. You have to try something and then try it again and then change it a little bit because guess what? Human beings change. And so you have to understand how to harness the power of a human connection. And there's a lot of trust that goes into that as well. When a kid connects, they're vulnerable and they'll tell you things and they'll give you information. And as a great teacher, you know what, it's so funny about the time that we all figure out how to do this as a teacher, it's time to retire. Yep. And then you got to pass it on. So hopefully we start to pay it forward. But I'm hoping, my hope for the book is that people will go, oh, did I tell you that I wrote a book called The Engagement Effect? It's right here. Look at this. It's right.
Amazing.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's
Carly was right there. Look at, there it is right there. I love that along the way. We thought, how in the world do you signify engagement? What does it look like? Does it look like 2 people connect? You know what? When you're in a crowd, you're in an audience, and you hold up your phone because you're trying to grab something, connect with a memory that you want to take and you want to show somebody else. That's how the whole process kind of works.
That's
pretty fun.
Amazing. I love that. You know, it's funny. I was using the energy stick earlier this week. I was working with Kids Club as part of a grant. And
yeah,
it was fascinating because I worked with different grades and different levels. And we were using it as a way to talk about ways in building friendship that you are a conductor for friendship and ways that maybe you're putting up barriers or you're an insulator in creating a friendship. And
isn't that true?
And it was an amazing connection, but it started with play and it started with the energy stick and letting them discover organically how it worked. Because I usually go in and I learned from you. I play dumb and pretend I don't know how it happened. And generally I tell them, my friend Steve Spangler sent me a bunch of these and I haven't had a chance to play with them yet. Do you think you guys can help me figure out what they're for? And
I love that.
We go from there. I did have one little guy there this week who goes, I know him. You were in the videos with him. He's the coolest. I'm like, okay, I need you to maybe be my helper over here.
It's so fun. Isn't that fun?
He became the cultivator of the experience. And so by finding a role for him, it grew in a way I hadn't anticipated.
I love it. You know, we talk about, in the book, we talk about, there's a section called feigning ignorance. And it's this whole idea of not knowing. Because when you know everything, there's no room to connect, right? When you're just kind of pushing content out, there's no room to connect. You know how we started with the fire book here? And so I like that. And you know that, okay, so I've got a little lighter that's in here. And so that's how the whole thing works. Well, I can't carry this around. On TSA, they think that's a bomb. So you can't really, on the airplanes and going through. So I've traveled with this for so many years. It's my wallet that does the same thing. And then you open it up and then you get your little allowance right there. And so it's the lighter on this side. And the very opening story in the book says, if I smell like lighter fluid, this is the reason why. For 30 years, I wake up in the morning and I take the little thing and I put the little lighter fluid that's here and put my allowance over here and you put it in your pocket. You have no idea who you're going to meet that day. No idea at all. I was in Florence recently. Florence, Alabama. And I know you thought that was on a pretty good vacation, wasn't it? It was fun. And when I stay at too many hotels, and so it's just second nature. Hi, Spangler. Do you have anything next to a fire escape? I love a fire escape. And many times they'll go, wah! So that's fun. And so I did my little thing, and my wife was with me at the time. So Renee was with me, lit the whole thing up, and I go, anything next to a fire escape? And she looks at me and she goes, I don't know, I'll look. And you could tell she was not happy. I thought, oh, there's somebody who just doesn't know how to engage. Went over and got a coffee because the room wasn't ready just yet. And there's a little, you know how they had those little portable coffee, Starbucks thing or whatever. Went over and said, hey, anything that's extra hot, love it extra hot. And the person like, I don't know, I'll find something. And I looked at my wife after getting the coffee and kind of walking over and going to go to the room. And I said, kind of weird here in Florence. And she looked at me and she goes, no, you just didn't give them room to connect. And I was going through the routine. I was going through the routine. I have done this thousands of times. She goes, pause, let them connect. And she was absolutely correct. After doing this so many times, I gotta light the thing on fire. I gotta do whatever it is to do and pause and allow a person to connect when you do that, because they'll go, hey, your wallet's on fire. And you go, I know, it keeps doing it. Weirdest thing. How's your day going? See, it's that kind of, all it is just this open for this connect. The engagement is a weird thing. And I'm telling you, I'm learning more and more of it as time goes on. And hopefully I get better at it along the way. But really hoping that some of the stories will resonate with people in the book and they'll go, oh, I never, ever thought of it that way. So that's kind of what the hope is.
And I like the fact that you're also emphasizing the idea of not needing to know everything, because I think that can be a huge barrier to engagement. Not just for teachers and educators, but I think for business leaders as well. You feel like you have to know, you have to hold the knowledge. And I found, for me at least, I became a better teacher when I was able to use what I call my magic words of let's find out together.
Yeah.
And when you can say that and you can be vulnerable and admit you don't know everything, it becomes so much more fun to find out.
Yeah. I had there was those 27 teachers with me pushing the cart around, and a wonderful lady that I tell a story about, Joanne Lycum. And I remember her, she had a technique that she used on me, and I didn't realize it was a technique until later on down the road. But she'd ask me questions. How do you think it would be best to present something like this? And I thought to myself, well, I would do this and this. And then when I finally figured out that she'd been teaching for 29 years and I was brand new, she knew exactly how to do it. She was just giving me a chance to be able to offer something up. And I thought, isn't that a waste of time? If you already know the answer, why would you ask? She was masterful at making me feel as if I had something of significance, of value. Same things we just talked about. Can you help me? Do you care about me? And can you support me along the way? Can I trust you? And part of that connection is that trust. I love, if I'm practicing things along the way, my wife's like, could you just go to the store and buy your stupid stuff and stop asking people questions? Because you're in the aisle and you look at somebody who's there and they're looking at all the different kind of salad dressings, and I'll go, I don't even know which one to buy. Do you have a favorite salad dressing? I don't have to do that. My wife's just like, get the damn Thousand Island, whatever it is. And they'll go, I like this Paul Newman thing. It's pretty. And you're like, oh, why do you like that? Well, and then all of a sudden they start to talk. That's feign ignorance. I have no tattoos.
You and I are friends. We do the same thing.
I have no tattoos. Not a single tattoo on my body. Fascinated by tattoos. More fascinated by the people who are wearing the tattoos. I will always ask people about their tattoos. So you get a server, somebody's like, hey, welcome to such and such. Is there anything to drink? Yeah, I have an iced tea. You've been working on your sleeve a lot. You've added more since the last time I saw you. I'm totally feigning ignorance. And she's like, you're right. Which is the last one you added? Oh, it's the heart thing. Why'd you do the heart? And all of a sudden they start to tell you. And you just listen and you realize you're building a connection. Now, some people can be critical and go, aren't you just messing with people? It's not messing with people at all. It's saying I care more about the person than I do the thing, right? And I'm just learning how to connect with people, because if you can find a common ground for connection, you can encourage them to engage through possibly an experience you both get to share at the same time. Those are things that people never forget. So it's kind of fun, and it's a silly little technique, but You know what, in a time when you're researching engagement and when we were researching stuff that's out there, Diane, most of the stuff that's out there right now are these research studies in the corporate place or in the workplace about what can you do to get employees to work harder, produce better results for less money, make them feel like it's like feel like, not actually feel that they are a part of it. And so we had to look at it and say, here's everything that's out there. And we actually share it in a chapter of the book going, but that's not at all what we're talking about. That's not what this is. So that's why you're going to see some stories that are in the book that are kind of filled with emotion and some stories that come from practical experiences. But then put the other hat on that I don't get to put on very often and get to kind of share the business side of it, because we did own Steve Spangler Science and that company called Be Amazing Toys and Spangler Science Club, the subscription club, for many, many years. And so talk a little bit about those 45 employees that were with us and the overseas factories and what did that look like in the workplace and look at it that way. And then we pulled the curtain back on social media. You know, you're nice enough to go 4.5 billion views. There are corporations out there that want to go, how can a nerdy science guy get that many views? I mean, holy moly, how do you really get that many views? Because you're not terribly attractive. You have not a lot that's going for you on screen. Well, how do you get people to watch those videos? And what does that look like? And so we pulled the curtain back on what that looks like and what engagement looks like in terms of social media, and some experiments that we tried and some pretty cool empirical data as well. A little bit of something hopefully for everyone.
This book is a little bit of I don't want to use the word magna opus, but it sounds like it's sort of a culminating book of what you've learned so far in sort of sharing across the spectrum of the many lessons in the many aspects of your life. Something that they can take away from, and that it is that thread that connects it all.
You're absolutely right. And the part that I wasn't going to talk about, and it wasn't until sitting down and doing lots of talking and throwing stuff out, and one of the editors was in town, a guy by the name of Zach Grisham, and kind of helped write and kind of cultivate some of the stories that are there. And he saw that in the basement we have a secret room, and the secret room is where I have all my magic tricks. I grew up in a family of professional magicians. My dad ran a magic school, and so he started going like, "What's this?" And so we'd do a little magic trick, and he'd go, "What's this?" I'd do a magic trick, and he goes, "Tell me more about the magic." And so as I started telling him about growing up in a family of magicians, I could see that this whole thing changed, and he goes, "Finally, none of this made sense. I didn't know how you got to this point. You didn't just discover this." He says, "You were taught this engagement thing. It all started with you growing up in a family of magicians and doing your little magic tricks or whatever." We tell a story in the book. There was a news station in town, and we always, I grew up in a time when you sat down and there's the 5 o'clock news, and mom and dad always watched the 5 o'clock news, and there's 10 o'clock news you would watch at night, and morning stuff and along the way. There's a station here in town, 9 News, the number 9 News, and there was a reporter, and 9 is big deal, and they had an action cam. They had a van that would go around with a satellite thing in the 70s, and they're live, and it was amazing. There was an anchor by the name of Ward Lucas, and he's like a network anchor, and that's pretty cool, And I remember walking home from school one day and looking down the street, and there's a van down the street. I'm looking, and as I get closer, it's parked pretty close to the house, and as I get closer, it's parked in front of the house. Only 2 things could be: they're taking the dad to jail, and now we need to see, or for some reason 9 News is at my house. And I walked in that door, and there he was. Ward Lucas was standing in my living room with my dad. And Dad says to me, the first words out of his mouth, "Stephen, go get the handcuffs." Which is not something that people normally will say, but I knew exactly what he was doing because my dad ran a magic school. I didn't know that why Ward Lucas was there, but my dad ran a magic school and he taught escapes. Every magician's got to learn how to pick a lock, how to get out of a rope that gets tied around it, and you have to learn how to pick handcuffs. You actually shim them. And so he goes, "Go get your handcuffs." I mean, all right. So I went and got the handcuffs, and as I went and got the handcuffs, I had taken the bobby pin, because that's how you shim them, thinking, I wonder if he's going to have me do the trick, put it in my back pocket. So I brought the handcuffs out, and he handed them to Ward Lucas, and he goes, "This is regular standard issue, Peerless, or Smith & Wesson or whatever it was." He goes, "Put them on the kid, cuff the kid." And Ward Lucas goes, "I'm not cuffing the kid." And he goes, "Cuff the kid." And so Dad says, turn around, Stephen. So I turned around and put my hands behind my back, and he cuffed me. And then I turned back around again, and as my dad talked to Ward, my dad looked at me and went like this, like, do it. And so I reached in, got the bobby pin, not knowing, and worked out. And then about, I don't know, a minute later, he goes, Stephen, is there anything you'd like to show Mr. Lucas? And I go, here's the handcuffs. And you could see his face turn white like a ghost. He's like, how'd you do that? And I couldn't slip out of it. I mean, how'd you do that? And my dad, for the first time ever, looked at me and goes, you can show him how to do it. He's going to be a magician someday. Ward Lucas is going to come to the magic school. Well, what Ward was doing was an entire investigative series on rip-offs, scams, swindles, and he was looking for a way to connect with the Denver Police Department. And he thought, if I could show the Denver Police Department that an 8-year-old kid could get out of their handcuffs. So for the next 6 months, he paraded Denver police through my dad's magic school, and he would bring him in, and Ward Lucas was the guy. Now he'd say to the officers, take your cuffs out. And they're like, what? He'd take all the handcuffs and go, cuff the kid. And you can see his police officers going, I'm not cuffing the kid. There's one officer who, I'll cuff the kid, turn around. So he turns around, slaps him on me, and hits the deadlock on either side. There's a pin on a handcuff key. Well, I knew how to do that because Dad taught me how to sweep the lock and then you shim it and you're out. When I got out of those, I thought that guy was speechless. And he said to Ward Lucas, do you know how many criminals, how many bad people I've had in the back of the squad car in those cuffs? Had no idea that they were that easy to get out of. That's the engagement effect. You see that? There was a feeling produced and I watched my dad do it. I didn't do it. I just got to watch the process. So no wonder the editors went, you got to tell some stories because you watched it firsthand. And I watched the effect that it can have on people. It's pretty amazing. But it's something you practice. It's not something you just pick up along the way. So hopefully some people will look at this and they'll start practicing. And maybe someday we'll hear some stories back about how the engagement effect has impacted other teachers and kind of the cool experiences they've cultivated.
So the engagement effect is out this month, and
it is.
You can order it on Amazon, I'm assuming.
Yep, you can. Take a look at that. There's the screen right there. So there it is. Look at that. Carly, you did such a good job. Nice job. Look at that. You can pre-order. I have a feeling they're shipping a little bit early because we got a note from Simon & Schuster saying that they're stocking right now. So love to have you see it, and we'd love to get your feedback on it. I think that's the scariest thing in the world is you put something out there and then you wonder, there's 1 million books published every year, so how in the world is anybody going to read your book? But maybe there's a connection along the way, and I'm hoping that somebody will thumb through and they're going to look through the pictures in the middle going, what's this all about? What's the fire and all that other kind of stuff that's there? My dad came to school and ate fire when I was a kindergartner.
Oh, wow.
So we get to stand up and say what your mom and dad do, and I was so proud. I said, my dad eats fire and cuts my mom into 3 pieces. And that's what they did in their evening show. And the kids are like, yeah, that's not true. And the teacher's like, sit down, Stephen. And I went, it's true. And so I went home and told my dad, nobody believes it, Dad. They said that you don't eat fire. Well, it's 1972. Nobody cares. My dad brought the torches the next week. And so for show and tell, he ate fire for the kids. I don't care what your dad does. When my dad eats fire, that's pretty awesome along the way. Is that the weirdest thing? 40th high school reunion, do people go, your dad still eat fire? And you're like, God, how do you remember that after all these years?
Because it was
it's an experience.
And it engaged them. Well,
yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for sharing the engagement effect with us. I'm going to drop all the links in the show notes so people can pre-order the book. And for those of you out there who read it, I would love for you to drop a line to me, because if you'd like to do an online book club, I would be more than interested in reading with you in November.
Oh.
So that could be a fun way for us to get engaged together.
So fun.
Thank you for joining us on the Adventures in Learning podcast, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
You're so fun. Thank you so much. Thanks for all that you're doing out there to inspire teachers. Thanks for the work that you're doing in museums with children. And huge thanks for coming to Colorado every summer and being part of our experience called Science in the Rockies. You're a huge, huge part of it. Teachers fall in love with you. Fairy tale STEM, they take it with them forever. The difference that you're making in that multicultural approach with connecting science and children's literature is absolutely amazing. So back at you. Thanks for doing all that you do.
Thank you, Steve. And I hope that the engagement effect makes such a difference in the lives of teachers and business leaders everywhere.
Thank you. Otherwise, it's just a really good liner for a bird cage.
Well, let's hope not.
Okay, got it.